Hello and welcome to another edition of Coach's Thoughts. The first two editions we've done so far have really dived into a lot of maths around both power output and also pacing. Today we're going to be looking at a bit of CrossFit theory, and it should be noted before we go any further on CrossFit theory that the founder of CrossFit, Greg Glassman, is responsible for some of the definitions that I'll use in today's episode. And if you want to become more familiar with his work and some of his brilliant definitions that I'll be using, you should look those things up, and the best place to start is the CrossFit Level 1 Trainer Guide. Okay, let's get stuck into it. So the question I'm answering today is a question, or a statement I should say, that I hear a lot, and I think it's worth us unpacking to understand why it's my solemn belief that CrossFit is the best training program out there for fitness. So the statement I hear a lot is this one: the problem with CrossFit is ... And we're going to be specifically talking about CrossFit programming and problems that people pick out with CrossFit programming. So let's get stuck in. I wanted to start with this quote from Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit. "I'm a fitness whore." I know that's a little bit aggressive. I'm sorry. This is a G-rated show, but I didn't want to misquote him. "If I find something that works, I'll use it." This is really the premise of good CrossFit programming and today's episode, and why I believe CrossFit is the best program out there. So these are the statements that I typically hear around CrossFit programming. Either it is you don't do enough of, or you do too much of. That's normally what people want to make comment about CrossFit programming and where they feel it could be better. These are the "you don't do enough" isms that I tend to hear or have heard over the journey about CrossFit. And I am going to talk to, I guess, my views on how much of this we do in just a moment. Endurance is definitely one early on in the piece that we were criticized for, although that's changed a little bit now. You don't do progressive overload. You don't do rotational exercises. I hear that one a bit. You don't do accessory exercises. You don't do isometric holds. You don't do tempo work. And you don't do isolated work. And there are others that I've heard, and then there's people potentially watching this who can think of others that they've heard or criticisms that they have. One of the ironies about this is that I'm going to talk to my views on people not doing enough of this, but in good CrossFit programming, you do see this stuff. Yeah, and the reality is there are thousands upon thousands of CrossFit programs out there. There's obviously CrossFit.com and CrossFit affiliate programming, which are what I would sort of call like the motherships of programming. But then lots of affiliates do their own programming. There's a ton of online programs, and a lot of those programs have all this stuff. So it's that like if you're criticizing CrossFit for not having this, my question to you is what CrossFit program are you looking at? But nonetheless, that's not sort of the point that I want to make today, or not the major point that I want to make today. The major point that I want to make today is around us having this definition of fitness, which was presented to us by Greg. I said I wouldn't do too many numbers. I know there's numbers on this graph, but in essence, what this is somebody's fitness defined as their work capacity. You've got their power output over here, and then you've got time domain here. I think the thing that you should take from it is that there's some data points on this graph. So this person can do a 100-meter row in 15.7 seconds. They've got a 322 Fran. They've got 11:14 nasty girls, and so on and so forth. Here's the deal. This person is tracking their fitness by taking note of the results that they get in CrossFit, and that gives them an objective measurement of where their fitness is at. And that is really, really important for this discussion around, hey, CrossFit doesn't do enough of this. So this is my graph, and as you can see, it doesn't have the same artistic qualities as the previous graph. So here is CrossFit, and here is the things that we get criticized for not doing. These are outside the circle right now. So it's the belief of some people that these are the things that we don't do that we should be doing in CrossFit. Pretty simple visual, I know. So this is how most of that criticism goes down, and how our response as a person that does CrossFit, a CrossFit trainer, CrossFit affiliate owner, responds to that. You, not you, but somebody tells us that CrossFit is silly for not doing endurance, whatever. Rather than defending CrossFit, we actually assess your suggestion. So I don't actually be like, we do enough endurance, even though I feel like we might. I'll actually be like, should I be doing more endurance? Your suggestion is either proven to be right or wrong based on its influence on that work capacity. Basically, what I'm telling you is that I will answer your question or your statement of, hey, you don't do enough X by considering, hey, should I do enough? Should I do more of X? And the answer is in how it affects this graph here. If it affects it positively, then I'm going to thank you for your suggestion and I'm going to actually begin doing it in CrossFit. If it doesn't affect this thing positively, the question I put back to you is why would I do it? And there's some valid answers to that. Perhaps you like doing it, but it hasn't shown itself to be valuable, and I've got the data to back that up. So, outcome one, your suggestion was useful. Hey, you don't do enough, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, maybe we don't. Let me try that. And I try it and I realize that it actually did have a positive impact on people's fitness. This is what's happened. People have suggested things. CrossFit coaches and trainers have tried them and been like, do you know what? That's actually working quite well. Guess what? Your suggestion is now part of CrossFit or part of that particular CrossFit program if it showed itself to be valuable. So CrossFit allows, as a philosophy, for new valuable things to be incorporated in. So when you say in CrossFit, you don't do enough of X, if you show me it to be valuable, guess what? I'll do it. It's not like we're so dogmatic that I can't add valuable things to our program. And I've written that here. We now do your suggestion as our philosophy allows us to include things of value. People who have been around CrossFit for a while will have noted that programming has changed as people have become more across what is valuable. It's like, that does actually work quite well. Let's do a little bit more of that. Outcome two, your suggestion was not useful. So it's like, hey, you don't do enough so-and-so. We do it, and it's like, that isn't really doing much for people's fitness. It's not actually working. We just truck on as we were. Thanks for the suggestion. Your suggestion is a thing that you like, but our data suggests we could do more valuable things, other things. You keep doing you though. Yeah, you keep doing you. If you like doing that thing, if you like pursuing that thing, we're not here to take that away from you. But the reason we don't do it is because we have data, the work capacity graph we saw before, that suggests it doesn't actually help us with getting fitter. These are the you do too muchisms in CrossFit. So it's like, hey, in CrossFit, you do too much of this. Kipping, lifting at intensity, gymnastics at intensity, compound movements, so like, not enough isolated stuff, and moderate weight. They're sort of there's a bigger list than that, right? But they're the ones that I hear over and over again. So this is my second graph. I didn't even manage to make it finish on the page. So here's CrossFit, and here's all the things that you think we do too much of. They're in CrossFit right now. And the reason that we do them, even if you feel like we do too much of them, is because they have a positive influence on this graph. So once again, we do them because we have the data to support that it helps us achieve our goals. Now, certainly, when it comes to this list of you do too muchisms, there's coaches and trainers, hundreds, if not thousands of them, that have played around with removing some of these things to a degree, maybe doing less of them. And what that coach would have done is removed it, watched the impact on their members' work capacity or their individual's work capacity, and then made a choice, hey, should I be removing that thing or should I not? It's a very logical process whereby we don't have to be, I'm going to use that word again, dogmatic about yes, we don't do that and we shouldn't do that, or yeah, we do that and we should be allowed to. I don't need to take that stance. All I need to do is reflect on how does it influence this. I put this in here as a little bit of a poke at fun at people, but a lot of the time that people are like, hey, in CrossFit, you do too much of this thing. That's why I don't do CrossFit. Basically, this is what they're doing. Your program that you think isn't CrossFit, it actually is CrossFit, just with a few things missing. A few things that we have seen to be really valuable that for whatever reason you don't want to do. Hey, again, you do you. By the way, we're talking about people who are pursuing the same goal as us, that goal of work capacity. That's what they end up doing a lot of the time. So you think what you're doing is better? Again, not you, sorry, but these people that have removed certain elements, it's like, oh, I don't do CrossFit, I do this. It's similar, but I don't do all this. So you think it's better? That's awesome if you think it's better. You shouldn't have to think it, you should know it. You should be able to prove it with data. And I'm going to draw you back again to that work capacity graph, which really is just tracking results. Track your results, and it wouldn't be an argument about like I think it's better. It's like you have the data to objectively say it is better. Your exercise program should take you closer to your goals. That's pretty straightforward. And this should be measurable. That's also pretty straightforward. Our goal in CrossFit, amongst other things, is fitness, which we've defined, or Greg defined as work capacity. And we measure that. And because we measure that, I can now make this objective assessment on anything that you think should or shouldn't be in our program. And I can say, no, it is valuable or isn't valuable because I am measuring fitness. Your goals might not just be fitness though, and that's totally reasonable. I've got more goals than just work capacity. Your goals might be to lose weight. You might want to gain some lean muscle. You might want to improve some of those health markers that your doctor's talking to. You might want to feel better. You might want to look better. You might just want to be out of pain. I would suggest that all of those things are pretty measurable. Okay, some of them are a little bit more like intangible, like feeling better. That's a little bit more intangible than just losing weight. That can be measured on a scale. However, if you're measuring it, you'll be able to assess if you're doing the right program or not based on the results that you're getting. I am committed to the program that gets the best outcome for my athletes, and the best outcome for my athletes is helping them achieve their goals. The best program that I've seen help athletes achieve their goals that I coach is CrossFit. And that's why I'm committed to CrossFit, and that's why we prescribe CrossFit at Charge. Whatever they are, find a way to measure your goals. If your program is taking you closer to them, keep doing that program. In CrossFit, so this is sort of in conclusion, in CrossFit, you don't do enough. This is the response that a really good CrossFit coach will give to that sort of, you don't do enough of this in CrossFit. They'll either say one of three things. That sounds might interesting. They won't say that unless they're having some really good issues that day. That sounds interesting. We might try that. That would be the first thing that I would do if someone suggests something to me. It's like, that looks really cool. All right, we'll give it a go and I'll be able to measure if it works or not. They might say this, we already do that. I say that one a lot to people who criticize things about CrossFit. It's like, we do that. Perhaps you just haven't seen it because you haven't been exposed to CrossFit. Option number 3, that hasn't proven to be valuable to our goals. Hey, we tried that. I saw the influence that it had on my members' goals around fitness, and it didn't actually bring them closer to that, so I don't do it. They're the outcomes. They're pretty reasonable, and I think we can have a mature dialogue around that sort of that conversation of you don't do enough of. It's like, let's not make it an opinion-based thing. Let's make it an objective. This is why we do or do not do these things in CrossFit. But the big takeaway is this. CrossFit can be anything as long as it shows itself to be valuable to increasing your fitness or bringing you closer to your goals. And for that reason, if you find something really, really valuable that you're like, hey, you don't even do this in CrossFit, I'll probably end up doing it if it proves itself to be valuable. And that's why this beautiful thing, CrossFit, can continue to evolve and has evolved a lot over time. That's why it's the best fitness program in the world. Coach's Thoughts out.